Thank you, everyone, for joining today. Today's webinar is about AI in professional services and what trends we're seeing for 2024. I'm Arushi Ladda. I'm a senior product manager here at Rocketlane. I'd be joined today with me by my CTO, Deepak. And we have a very special guest with us, Dave Hofferberth, who's the Director for Services Performance Insights. Um, I'd be going over how AI can be used in professional services workflows. And Dave is going to be presenting some of his key findings with the 2024 edition of the annual SPI Professional Services Maturity Benchmark. We have quite a few exciting things for you today, but before we get into it, just a few housekeeping items. This session is being recorded, and a copy of this webinar is going to be emailed to all of you guys. We'd encourage you to submit any questions that you have for us in the Q&A bar. And before I hand it off to David, I'm just going to present some of our own key findings from our surveys at Rocketlane. What we see as a repeating pattern across organizations that we work with is there are just too many tools in use, right? You use a project management tool, people are using time tracking, resource management, you'll be using a BI tool to tie all the data together. It's all over the place. PM and PS tools don't work together, they're not connected to each other, and it ends up creating a lot of data silos. And this kind of a situation not just makes it difficult for individuals to work on a day-to-day basis, but it also makes it very difficult to get any actionable real-time insights from the system. Getting any time of data reporting or insights from the systems become a time sink. You are taking exports, you're trying to be Excel wizard with VLOOKUPs, and it's just, we call it death by 1,000 spreadsheets at Rocketlane. Another pattern that we're seeing across organizations is more and more people are now interested to move toward managed services and subscription revenue. It's a more stable revenue stream, and with how challenging the past year has been, it's a much better quality of revenue that firms want to aim for. And we're also seeing that while the number of clients that organizations are dealing with are increasing, but the profit margins are decreasing as much as by 4%. And one of the key factors for that is becoming inefficiencies in your own systems. One of the reasons being there being so many of them. And also sort of we're seeing that how do you monitor and identify avenues for optimization that can help you overcome these inefficiencies? Automations and AI is the buzzword, and we really think in a situation where there is so much data to crunch and repeatable patterns, AI can really sort of help an organization improve their profitability. So where do we think Rocketlane can help? The general life cycle of any customer project starts with selling the projects, and you're figuring how do you staff your team, who can you engage on the projects to get it off the ground, the actual project delivery. Then there is the process of invoicing and billing the customers. And during all of this, you also want to be in touch with the customer and be really attuned to what they're saying to you. And we do believe that Rocketlane can help you in multiple of these facets. And today we're going to look at how we help you staff your projects faster and how we're leveraging AI to do that. But before we get into any of that, let's hear it from Dave, what his research is telling us.
Well, thank you very much, Arushi, and thank you everyone for attending today. This is the topic of the year and probably the topic of the next few years. Artificial intelligence is impacting the professional services market, both internally and externally, and I'll discuss a little more about that today. Before I get into it, for those of you who don't know SPI Research and myself, I've been a technology analyst for 27 years now, first with the Aberdeen Group and then with SPI. And our focus at SPI is, and you know, I'll hit this a few times during the presentation. Our focus is in how to help organizations like yours improve productivity and profitability. I mean, it's as simple as that, but it's not easy to do. And 17 years ago, we developed the Professional Services Maturity Benchmark. And now over 50,000 firms around the world have used it to better understand their performance, their comparative performance, and how to initiate performance improvement capabilities. And so today I'm going to discuss what the benchmark is in case you don't know. And of course, you can receive a copy of this from Rocketlane after the presentation. I'm going to talk a little bit about the challenges in the market and then focus on analyzing and improving performance. And of course, a big part of that is artificial intelligence. And again, we are just beginning this market. And so then look at AI-enabled professional services automation. That's the one solution you use to efficiently deliver projects and services. And it's so critical for your organization to use. And then I'll wrap it up and pass it back to Arushi or Deepak. So first, I'll talk about the Professional Services Maturity Benchmark. 17 years ago, we built a model and we said that every organization consists of what we call 5 pillars, or really 5 functional groups. Leadership, which is how the leadership team aligns your organization, the agility they show, do they communicate, do you have confidence in the organization? It's a very critical aspect of your organization, although it's somewhat subjective, but it's so important. We move on to client relationships, and that's really your sales, marketing, and partnering. We look at the KPIs associated with, building pipeline, winning bids, building backlog, and looking at, some sales-specific KPIs. Then the third pillar is what we call talent, and that's the most important part of your organization. It's your people. Now, people are important in every industry, but in professional services, they're particularly important because we're the people who deliver the services, the margin. We create margin. And then service execution, that is the delivery of projects and services. And then finally, finance and operations, and that's counting the money and making sure your organization succeeds. And then we move over to the 5 levels of maturity, as we like to call them. It's really performance maturity. And level 1 organizations, they tend to be younger, starting out, where everyone's working hard, but you can tell they're not efficient. There's a lot of things that you duplicate, efforts you duplicate, and so forth. As you start structuring and standardizing delivery methodology, people's roles are very well defined, and you really deliver the same service over and over again in increasing margins. You move up into that level 4 and 5, which are really, the high performance firms that we want all of you to shoot for. And what's important about our model is, and this is why it's worked for 17 years, is we think every one of those pillars or every aspect of your organization is interrelated. Every individual, the things that are done in the leadership rooms impact the marketing and sales activities of your organization. They impact the type of people you hire, the cost of the people you hire, and then, of course, you move on to delivering services, hopefully efficiently, effectively, with high levels of quality. And of course, if it all goes well, you increase client satisfaction, which drives further growth, and you make money out of it. So it is complicated. I think most people understand that. And so that's the basis of the model. And then the key is people go, well, yeah, we all understand that. Well, that's great. But this slide here, I hope shows you, and this is just about 8 of the 155 KPIs that we track. But these are important KPIs. And you can see as your organization moves from level 1 to level 2 and so forth, you have higher growth, you make more money, everything is good. And those level 4 and 5 organizations do such a good job that they're thinking about the next thing. So they're always working forward. I want to just point out one last thing. you can see that the 172 firms out of 575 that completed the survey, the level one firms lost money. That's kind of scary because professional services organizations, we expect 10% growth and 15% profitability every year. And we don't necessarily always get it, but we want you to shoot for that at a minimum. And so just a quick slide on the challenges. And again, we do everything by our pillars. COVID changed a lot of things. It had us operate a lot differently or differently than we maybe were used to, but there were definitely some positives. But we still have issues associated with planning and budgeting because COVID taught us if you don't have good plans and the market conditions change, you're in trouble. And that's what we saw. Clients selling and hiring are difficult when a majority of your workforce is remote, and it is right now. So it makes everything a little harder, and your organization has to continually work to improve that. And then delivering services. Now, professional services, we've already been good at delivering services remotely. I know every other industry talks about it. We're actually pretty good at it. But how we do that, how we ensure, we give client satisfaction, but also deliver on time, on budget, and so forth. And then, of course, make money, invoicing, all the expenses, monitoring them. It's not easy. It's not easy, and every professional service organization has challenges here. And so we take all of these organizations and we want to improve. And again, we look at the key performance indicators that drive your business. Now, not everyone collects every KPI that we do, but you collect a subset of them. It could be as many as 100 of the KPIs we collect. And of course, the problem is information overload. There are so many that I talk to executives every week, and they say, Dave, we just don't know these numbers. We just can't collect them. It's too expensive and so forth. And that's why we're going to get into this a little later and how you can do this to improve your organization. And then taking a step back, it's always important to understand, why you're there. You're working on performance, and that's great, but what are you really trying to accomplish? Well, most executives I talk to, they first say growth and profit. I agree, they're very important. But the second two areas that are equally important are client satisfaction and what I call employee optimization, which means satisfied employees, but also having the right mix of skills at the right cost. You need to do all of this well if you plan to succeed over the long term. I mean, any firm can grow revenue in a year, but the question is, can you do everything else well? Likewise with profit. So it's a balancing act that executives have to understand. And so finally, why we're here today, AI it really has changed the market. I took my first AI course 35 years ago, and I like talking about it because, it was so much different then, and you'd hear about it occasionally. Well, as everyone here on this call probably knows, we probably all heard about AI more last year and this year than we had the past 35 years put together. It's just it's changing everything for us. And I like to put this slide up to say, hey, I remember when we introduced the IBM PC, and that really did change everything. The internet came shortly thereafter for the mainstream. That really changed everything. We moved into client server SaaS, and there were very positive benefits for everyone. They lowered cost, made people more productive, just wonderful things. And now we're at that next wave, I guess you'd call it, artificial intelligence, and how it will impact every industry. And I put a quick definition that I'd seen up. And it's a lot of words, but basically AI is there to help all of us perform tasks more efficiently and just help us make better decisions. I mean, it's as simple as that, but it's very complex, and you need to understand how to use it. And so, what is it going to do for professional services? It's going to help the leadership team do a much better job of planning. like I said, maybe they capture 10 or 15 or 20 KPIs that they use to run their business. Well, AI will help them capture hundreds of KPIs, but do all the work for them and really tell them kind of where they're going. It's going to enable professional services organizations to develop new products and services for their client base based on AI. That's going to be real exciting. Obviously, talent management, helping you hire more efficiently, effectively, the right people, the right skills, minimizing attrition and so forth will be wonderful. And then really start delivering projects with better processes, better quality embedded in it, and therefore at higher margins and higher client satisfaction. And then, of course, the data comes in and helps you audit your own organization more efficiently to better understand how you can improve and how you can change your strategy going forward. And so in our survey of 575 firms, we talked about this. We had a section on AI, and we asked three basic, well, there were several questions, but these three, it's important to our firm, it's important to our clients, and it will impact the future delivery models within PSOs. And I've got a little more on that a little later. But what we saw here was that if one is very unimportant and five is very important, you can see that on average, the professional services firms we surveyed have really believe this technology is going to be important for both them and their clients. And why I say that is who is going to help all of these other industries with what's happening with AI. It's going to be us. I mean, we're the people. You run a manufacturing facility, you know what AI is, but you have no idea how to really take advantage of it. You're going to hire a professional services firm to come in there and work with you and embed AI into everything you do. So this is, we are just at the beginning of this, and I'll show you a couple of other slides on this here in a second. So we asked the 575 firms, how well are you incorporating AI to increase efficiencies? And again, if you knew SPI, we like to throw a lot of numbers at you, but a couple things that I wanted to show you here was that you can see most or 2/3 of the organizations have at least started some work on incorporating AI to increase efficiencies. Again, last year was just the beginning, and that's when I did the survey at the end of 2023. I will ask these same questions at the end of 2024, and I'll see much different answers. But also what I want you to see here is the organizations as they really focus on AI and are doing what they would believe is a good job. You can see higher revenue growth, higher headcount growth, more efficient organization in terms of billable employees, utilizing standardized delivery methodologies, delivering projects on time, on budget. These are good firms, and I want every one of the firms out there today to sit back after this presentation and think about it, because this is what's happening, and I'd rather you get ahead of the curve than behind. Oh, okay, sorry about that. So like I said, the slides are kind of the same. This is a similar slide when we asked AI is important to our firm. So internally, is it important to our firm? You can see that, again, on the left, that almost 2/3 of the organization said it's important or very important. And again, the numbers here don't really tell a great story, but they do tell that these organizations are more efficient, more profitable, more revenue than the ones that aren't. And again, I want everybody, again, just to sit back and think, how can we do this and where do we start? And you'll see something a little later on presented by Rocketlane that'll help you, again, at the very beginning of this. I apologize, I'm getting lag on this. Again, so the second question was, how important is AI to your clients? And again, it's another, you already know this, it's very important to your clients. You're going to be the people who will sell services based on AI. So it's very lucrative for your organization to get up to speed as quickly as you possibly can. These organizations, it's funny, the smaller ones don't think it's very important. As you grow in size, it becomes increasingly important to your organization. So again, just interesting, just some interesting KPIs here. And then this one is the one, this slide really caught me off guard when I did the study. If you watch the media, the business channels and others, analysts talk about AI, they tend to talk about it in terms of financing and you're running your business more effectively. They also talk about it in terms of talent, your people. And when we ask these 575 firms where AI will have the greatest impact, I was surprised service execution, in other words, delivering services, was the most important, obviously by a long shot, followed by all pillars. So in other words, they believe AI is important everywhere. Again, those two answers really tell you what the market, professional services market, thinks about AI and what its future benefit can be for the organization. And I think with that, I'm going to Arushi, and she's going to do a little demo here.
Thank you, Dave. Those are some really interesting figures and numbers. Right. So while we think AI can be used in so many different places in your professional services delivery, today I'm going to show you how you can use Rocketlane to leverage it for staffing your projects. So let me just jump into a product demo. So anyone who's familiar with resource management and staffing projects, they'd be familiar with this screen, right? It's a list of people and a heat map of their availability. And it's the same exercise every time you do. A new project comes in, the project manager needs to run an estimation exercise of how many people am I going to need, what roles that they have to be in, how many hours is going to be required. And then they're going to share their estimate with the resource management team, who then comes into if they're using a tool, they would come into a screen like this. A lot of times it's just spreadsheets, and you're trying to use this to figure out who is available when. And it's not an easy task if you are staffing a team with 5, 6 people. You're manually probably filtering out based on roles, on based on any skill matches, and then you're trying to figure out who's available on which dates, if they're rolling off any projects, and it's a very manual task. So with Rocketlane, help you standardize and automate your process end to end. We highly believe in the power of standardization, and that's where our templates come into play. So even before it goes to staffing, you can completely do away the load on a project manager to come up with that estimate. If you have repeatability in your projects that you run, you can templatize them with our Rocketlane templates. These are not just the phases and tasks that you would be running in an organization, but you can also have role-based assignments with them. You could also mention how much effort any of these tasks take to complete. And not just that, you can also, with Rocketlane, templatize the entire resource management plan for this project type. So when a new project is when a new project is created using this template, it comes with all your phases, your tasks, your assignments, but it also comes with this resource plan and build. So the project manager just needs to look at, okay, I need an account executive, I need somebody from consulting services, I'm going to need somebody from implementation, and these are my required expectations from them. And pretty much his job is just to now talk to the resource management team and figure out who's the right people to take on this project. Again, as a resource manager now, you don't have to go individually through this list of people and one by one figure out each of these roles. We have introduced something called Resource AI. And what it helps you to do is, so I have my same project here. What Resource AI can help you do is it can help you find your entire team with just a click of a button. Something that, according to our survey, used to take 18 days We're being ambitious to say you can solve it in 18 seconds, and hopefully in less than that. We have two algorithms that we have introduced: load balance and maximizing margin. Um, how this works is, because Rocketlane is a unified system of record of your project plan, of assignments, of the resource management plan, the hourly expectation, your team member database, along with all the skills and the roles and everything. We basically have all the data required for the AI to tap into and be able to create just the perfect team for you. And it does that using two different methods. Load balance will try to staff the team in a way that workload is always equitably distributed. So this tries to find the person with minimum forecasted utilization. And the other one is to maximize margin. And this tries to maximize the overall profit margin that you would be making on the project holistically. So let's see it in action. So as a resource manager, all I have to do is to come into the Resource AI module. I would see again the roles that are needed, the dates and the allocated hours, and it's found the perfect theme for me. I click on the next page, and I'm going to see all the project financials in a single screen. 30%, I'm not so happy with this. So let's go and see if Maximize Margin can find me a better team. Right on. And 46%. Okay, this is looking better. And you can see what's actually happening here is it's run our algorithm again and try to find you people with lower cost in the system. And once you're okay with what you're seeing, all you have to do is say whether you would want this allocation. Is it confirmed or is it still tentative? Go ahead and you can just assign and allocate the team, and they'll be ready to take on the project. We'll go back to the slides and hand it off to Dave again to show you more on this.
Okay, let me move on. Thank you very much. Okay, and so Arushi gave you a demonstration of just one of the capabilities within Rocketlane PSA. I mean, the AI, what they're doing with AI is fascinating. Getting back to this is my last big ugly table. AI, how will it impact your delivery models in the future? Again, this is how AI and PSA move in together. You can see the organizations, it's similar to the other. The larger an organization gets, the more they feel it will impact the delivery models and how they do the work. You can see that almost every KPI improves significantly as you believe it's very important. Again, this just tells me this is the future. This is what you think. And so part of what AI is doing, again, remember I said we track 155 key performance indicators in our survey every year. Part of what we want you to do is to compare your organization to others. We want you to have the visibility necessary to make adjustments as you go throughout the year. If you're old enough, you remember when this was done on a quarterly basis, because you generate some large printout and somebody'd go through it and they'd say, oh gosh, we need to do this differently. Well, you know what? This is real time now that we live in. AI is going to help increase the visibility within your organization. And when we ask professional services executives, what kind of visibility do they have across their organization, you can see those that really say they've got great visibility. You can see the improvement in all of these KPIs. Project margin was only 2%, which I was surprised. Usually it's around 5 or 6, but pretty much every other KPI is 5 to 10 to 20% improved. And again, you can't grow and you can't make a lot of money unless you do a lot of things very well. And you can't do those things well unless you have visibility into them so that you're always focused on improvement. And so I've studied the PSA market for 25 or 26 years now. I was there at the very beginning of it. And so I've surveyed, besides the 6,500 firms that SPI has surveyed, I surveyed hundreds before I was at SPI. And pretty much I see similar type of results every year. The organizations that really take advantage of their PSA solution, they grow revenue better. Now, why is that? It has nothing to do with growing revenue. It has to do with delivering services. Well, if you deliver services efficiently, with high quality and on time, number one, you can move to the next service more easily. But number two, client satisfaction goes up and it's easier to sell. So the organizations that do things well, they grow. That makes a lot of sense. You can see revenue, they sell bigger projects. Again, you can't just go out and sell an expensive project. It takes someone believing in your organization to allow you to do that. Billable utilization, that's where PSA really started trying to improve billable utilization. In other words, out of a 2,000 hour year, how many hours on average are your consultants billable? Your senior consultants may only be billable 20 or 30% of the time because they have other activities. Your junior level consultants may be busy 105% of the time. In other words, over 2,000 billable hours. But you can see PSA is adding on average about, 200 hours or 120 hours per consultant per year. That's a lot of money these firms get to bill. You can see it in the annual revenue per consultant and annual revenue per employee, how those numbers change. And of course, project margin and EBITDA are two of the big areas that we cover because, again, we want you to be productive. We want you to be profitable. And you can see what the results from last year's benchmark of 575 firms told you. And so the last couple slides, organizations, and you probably all know this, have become more data driven. They realize that there's more data available to them. Again, not everybody collects all 160 of the KPIs that SPI collects, but there are enough there, and you use that information to determine your success or failure. If you see revenue growth going up, you're happy. But if you see deal pipeline going down, you're not as happy. So you're continually monitoring these. And actually, you're going to have AI do most of this lifting for you. Again, it doesn't replace you, but what it does is supplements you so that you can make faster decisions, more accurate decisions that will improve the organization at large. And so, again, 2023 was just the beginning. Everyone here knows it. This is when we really started to see discussion around AI. We started seeing client organizations ask for AI. We see professional services organizations figuring out an AI strategy. So we are just beginning. And, I talked about information visibility. AI should help your organization with your data to improve efficiencies and, again, to make you more productive and more profitable. With that, I will pass it to, I believe it is Deepak going to go forward, but maybe it's Arushi.
Deepak, you have
Right. So, hey, Dave, thank you so much for walking us through that and helping us understand what we have to expect from AI in PSA. And thank you, Arushi, for walking us through the demo and helping the companies that have joined us here today to understand how they can deploy their resources more efficiently. Just wanted to add before we take on questions that we have more resources on the website. Of course, the 2024 Professional Services Maturity Benchmark, which Dave's organization helped collect through surveys, that's available on the website. And in general, if you want to find out how AI is used at the workplace and how other teams are using it today in different organizations, or you want to understand how to get a project to profitability better, there's some ebooks there. Also wanted to call out that we have a upcoming event called Propel, where onboarding and services leaders will be there. They'll be sharing how they use AI in both onboarding and some of their services deliveries. So if that sounds interesting to you, please visit our website. You can sign up and we'll meet you there. With that, I'll open it up for questions. And I believe we have a couple of questions from the community already. So I'm going to read out some of them. The first question is, and I'll take this on, how will AI work across different applications? That's a great question, right? So I think with the number of integrations that come out of the box with many PSA tools, including Rocketlane, the data really will be in one place for AI to act on it. And AI is also, if you're aware, today you can prompt some of these LLMs in order to make an API call itself. So the AI, in fact, is smart enough, even if it doesn't have the data, to build the context of the data by making an API call to a system that it doesn't even know about, and then get that context in and answer the question for you. So that really excites me, that even if we have different applications and they have data residing in different places, that AI can still make sense of it in the context window that it has and answer questions. And hopefully that answered your question. With that, we'll move on to the next one. Will AI change the KPIs we collect? Dave, would you like to take that one?
Yeah, sure. I think, I only collect 100 and, like I said, 155 KPIs. There are literally hundreds of others by department, by function. And of course, it's really hard to collect all that information. Well, again, that's where AI comes in. Will be doing that for you going forward, so that you will be able to collect hundreds of KPIs. Some you never even thought about collecting, because vendors like Rocketlane will they'll make them out of the box. And what will happen is you'll better understand your organization and what levers you really need to pull to make your organization more productive. I mean, it's as simple as that. So again, AI is just like a smart person sitting there working 24/7 to try to figure out how your organization can be better. And again, we're just at the beginning. You're going to hear all kinds of announcements. I'm sure at the conference you'll hear lots more too. So I'm excited about this, Deepak. I really am.
That's a great answer, Dave. We have another question. Does AI now allow us to collect many more KPIs? Arushi, do you want to take that one?
Right. I think I would say there's enough data in the system. Today's tools track pretty much there is to track. I don't think the problem today is that there isn't enough data or KPIs to track, but really, can you derive meaningful insights or an actionable insight from that data? Can you figure out patterns, or do you have to employ an army of data analysts to make something out of that data? And I think that's where AI can really help, and that's where we are also leveraging it in the resource management demo that we saw, that you already have all the data as to who are your team members, what are their skill sets, which projects are they part of, what is their availability. All of that data is present in the system today, but somebody has to manually go and figure out who is available and who can take on a new project. And if all of that could be automated, the process of generation of the meaningful KPIs, if that could be automated, that really gives you your time back.
Got it. Yeah, totally agree with you. We have one more question from the community, which is, what other areas will AI help PSA? I think I'll take that one on. I'm super excited by that question. The reason being that we totally believe the conclusion that the SPI survey had, that AI will be used in service execution, and we're doubling down on that. While it was a surprise for Dave, it was a pleasant surprise for us, because we had already invested so much in AI service execution. And we see clients do this all the time, where they have projects, and For example, we have this feature in the product where once a project hits 80% of the budget, we send out an alarm. But one of the questions we had from a customer was, well, if you knew it was going to hit 80%, why didn't you tell me before? And that's where I think AI can help, right? So if we figure out a pattern and we know that your project is going to hit budget constraints, we will tell you much before it hits 80%. And forecasting and telling the customer that this project is will go underwater if you don't go ahead and make a correction soon is what I'm most excited about. The other thing that excites me is that large PSO organizations have so many customers, yet it's so difficult to determine what's happening in each of these accounts. Is the customer happy? What is the customer satisfaction score? I mean, yes, there is a NPS score and there is a CSAT score that you can go back to, but the devil really lies in the details of the daily conversations that you have with these customers. How did that phone call go? And are there too many open support tickets with that particular customer, right? So there's so many data points that you have. Some are in your CRM, some are in conversations that you have with the customer, some are in the ticketing system, and that's where AI can really help. Where AI is like this intern that can go look at each of these data points and then map it all out, find a pattern, and then let you know, hey, this customer, the CSAT says it's 4 out of 5, but in reality, it's probably 2 out of 5. Then maybe you should contact these people about these problems, and you can save the account or expand on it the next year. So those are the areas that excite me the most. That the service execution pillars are really going to change over the years, and like Dave said, we are really early in the AI revolution, but it's the best time to invest in the technology and adapt to it. Right. With that, I'm going to go ahead and read some of the questions in chat. I'll start with Dave. I think this is a question for you. Why isn't adoption or value in your framework for PS priorities? Those seem to correlate much stronger to ARR expansion and retention than client satisfaction.
Why is an adoption value? We asked some questions around that. I mean, like I said, we ask. Maybe they've seen a question, or we ask a lot of questions about adoption. Maybe not as many about value. I do webinars on value within the PSO, but I don't know. Not a lot of people ask for it, so that's interesting.
Right. There's another question that goes, does the Rocketlane AI learn from completed projects and help to scope new ones? We don't help to scope new ones yet, but we do learn from completed projects. In fact, we're working on some experimental features where everything in the Rocketlane system is based on templates and being able to deliver projects consistently. So it's important for us to for our customers, not only to deliver these projects the same way, but to understand if they're deviating from that delivery at some point in time. And right now, there are some checks and balances to make sure that you're sticking to your plan. But I think AI going forward will make it much easier to do so. Right. There's another question that goes, it's from Uber. Does this PM tool deploy AI to guesstimate each task average completion time to help with this estimating screen? Many based on the skill level seniority of the resources too. Yeah, that's totally what it is. There's a template, and there's also a template that's required for resources and tasks. So we then connect the resources and the tasks. Unlike some of the other PSA tools out there, we also have a project management module. So our project management module talks to the PS side of things. So if you change your project plan, and if you then change the resources associated with it, and let's say there's a placeholder that says, I know that an engineering team will need to be involved for the next 5 days in order to complete a task. and you change the project plan, we will know automatically, and we adjust to that. So we adjust to the project plan, the number of resources that you have, where they are deployed today, and the skill that they carry. And that's one of the things that helps us solve the problem easily, because all the data is there. And sometimes we find that organizations buy a PS tool, but may then buy another PM tool such as Asana, Jira, or a Smartsheets in order to solve the PM side of the problem. But then the flip side of that is that if your project management and something in that changes, and it always does, because no one can predict how a project goes 100% of the time, not even AI, you need to be able to adapt to that change. And having all the data in one place helps you do that. All right. Okay, next question is, how much of a utilization or billable activity does it consider when making this estimate? 100%? I'm not sure I fully understood that question. If the
Deepak, I'll take that question.
Yeah.
It probably is regarding the demo we just went through. So, how much of a utilization or billable activity does it consider? So, like we said, we have two proprietary models that we have pretty much trained internally at Rocketlane, and what they help you achieve is the first one is a load balancer. So that's going to try to distribute the workload among your team in a very equitable fashion, and by that, what it's trying to figure out is who's the next most underutilized person. And it's gonna try to optimize for that. So for every role, based on the requirement that you have of say how much time they need to put into the project and the dates on which it needs to go, it's going to go through the data on each of the team members on those roles. It's going to match the skills with what you need and try to find the person who's least occupied at the moment. That's one of them. The other one is the maximizing margin on a project. And there, what we're trying to do is, along with your data on team members and skills and their availability, Rocketlane is also where you will have data on their billing rates and what's the cost to company of having them on your team. So we also have the bill rates and the cost rates in our system. And using that, we know if you engage this person on any project, how much margin comes along with that person. And using that, the model is able to optimize the project margin holistically for you. And it does so while making sure, again, the skills that are needed for the project are a match. And also, it's not over allocating somebody. Nobody wants their teams to be burnt out. So while we are going to find you somebody who's going to absolutely increase your margin, it's also going to ensure we're not going over 100% on somebody's utilization.
Got it. Thank you so much, Arushi, for that. I think we have one more question. Just going to wait for it to pop up on the screen. It says, today we hear and see AI as chat, but there's also AI as assistants. And these AI assistants can help on their projects, specific objectives to monitor and optimize key areas of the project, such as time, resources, forward-looking changes, and assess the change and impact to a project plan. What are you seeing planning on these on this assistance approach? I'm super excited that you asked this, and I'm totally on board with this. I would be very, very surprised if Rocketlane does not release a feature that is both close to my heart and is very relevant to what you just asked. The reason being, the example I quoted before is just one of those things that the assistant can do. My second favorite, most favorite example would be, I had this customer ask me about revenue leakage, and that was their top priority. And it excited me because we had all the data to answer his question. It's just that we had not enabled AI to go look for that data to answer it yet. And that customer was really happy with all the projects they were running. The money was coming through. They were making profit, but they didn't know where the revenue was leaking. And I'm fairly certain that an AI assistant will be able to surface that. So my answer to that question is, when will we see this? Very, very soon. And would be very surprised if we don't release a AI assistant by the end of the year. Right. One more question. Does Rocketlane support long-term capacity planning as well as professional services estimation process? Arushi, you want to take that?
Yes. Rocketlane can absolutely help you do that. And the way we help you attain that is we tightly integrate with your CRM, and using that, we don't just know what you have in flight projects, but we also get visibility into what's in your pipeline and what might be upcoming. We match this with your team capacity, and what are your requirements. So it basically has everything it needs to generate a demand and supply equation of your team's time, and it's able to use that to sort of give you what we call the capacity planning report. And the capacity planning report shows you a heat map of different roles based on what you have ongoing and what's in your pipeline, as to where your bottlenecks might be. Is there a certain role that might become a challenge to sort of staff in the future? Is there a skill that might be in short supply? Do you have to hire somewhere, or do you need to upskill your team? Or are you going to have a really long bench strength on a certain skill? These are all the insights you would be able to get from us.
Right. So I have another question. I'll probably read it out. Does RLAI provide insights about which AEs and sales teams are best at selling the correct services? Well, we don't necessarily use AI to do it, but we would rely on the customer to tell us what sort of skill is necessary based on a project mapping. And an example of that could be that you know that some people that you have hired in the US region, um, maybe you have enterprise sales AEs and they are only supposed to work on enterprise projects whose net ARR that the project brings in is at least $100,000. Just an example. We have the ability to then dynamically allocate the right project to the right person based on that rule. It's not necessarily AI, but we have the capability. I just wouldn't call it AI. Right. The next question is, how are you ensuring security and privacy of the data that will be used by AI? This is an excellent question. I don't think it gets spoken about enough, but I'll tell you what, I have had a couple of vendors or other prospective customers ask me if our tool uses AI and where do we host it and the data security, right? So um, at Rocketlane, we have about 5 security programs that we already comply to, and they are SOC 2, SOC 1, GDPR, ISO 27001, and most of them take care of the basic security controls, such as your data should be encrypted at rest, and in transit, you make sure that data stays in one place. And the same rules would apply to any training that we do on AI itself, where we host the models. We use some services within AWS itself, which is where we are hosted, to make sure that all the data is not loaded in one place. We make sure that it doesn't reach any third party and that the data is safe and secure. So the existing controls that we apply to customer data, we apply the same level of controls to AI based models and that data too. So that's how we ensure that it's secure. Right. So there's another question about customers may have either budget or timeline constraints. Does the load balancer allow to discover the availability of people and confirm if resources can be reassigned between the projects, and shows the impact on project with respect to budget or timelines? Arushi?
Uh, it, ab- it absolutely can help you with that. So the resource AI module, while it actually serves multiple purposes. It can not only help you staff your projects within seconds, it's also a space where you can run estimation exercises for your projects, because it sort of shows you a holistic view of your project budgets. And it's also a space where you can very easily go and switch your teammates. So if the model predicted that Arushi is going to be available starting March, but turns out end of Feb Arushi's project gets extended, it will be able to recommend you another person, and it will also be able to tell you what are your project's holistic margins and costing coming out with that change of the person. So I see there is a lot of interest on the resource AI piece. I would highly recommend get in touch with us, and we'd help you sort of help figure out how you can use it in your business workflows.
Right. We have one more question. So you mentioned Rocketlane's been around for a long time. And in general, how has generative AI changed your software's capabilities? Well, yeah, it's changed a lot, both from the inside and the outside. I think I know I'm digressing a little, but I'll also talk about how we are using generative AI to build the software itself. Like most software teams around the world, adopt AI in order to write the code itself that builds the AI. So we sort of get meta there. And in terms of how AI is being used across some of these features, here, when we build a product, we believe that it needs to be based on existing workflows that we already champion. And we are very careful about where we introduce AI in the system. We have this feature called project updates, where we could, for example, introduce AI to generate the update itself. But we've held back, and we want to really think about the AI features that we release and to make sure that the customers benefit from the feature instead of just adding one more and going, hey, we did it too, right? So we want to champion the workflows before we champion the AI behind the workflow, because if the software can do the job right, then the AI can't either. So we're focused on the workflows first before we introduce the AI. Right. I can't see any more questions in chat. So it was really nice having all of you here today at this webinar. And thank you so much, Dave, for joining us. It was a pleasure having you here. And thank you, Arushi, for walking us through the product demo.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
Thanks, Deepak. Thanks, Dave. This has been an amazing time discussing Rocketlane and AI and the SPI benchmark, and hope everyone found this to be helpful.
Thank you, everyone. Please check out SPI and their website, and please also check out Rocketlane if you think we can help you with some of these problems. Have a great day.
Thank you.